Live from New York, it's Ask an Engineer.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Ask Engineer. It's me, LadyAda, the engineer, now with even pinker hair, with the Mr. LadyAda on camera control. We've got a jam-packed show for you tonight. Lots of new products, some psychedelic art, codes for discounts, and more. Let's kick it with the code and what's on tonight's show.
Go to touchscreen, 10% off in native restore all the way up till 11:59 p.m. Use it or lose it. You also get free stuff along the way. LadyAda will talk about that in just a few moments. Talk about some of our live shows, including Show and Tell, some Desk of LadyAda, Great Search, JP's product pick of the week, Help Wanted. We're hiring here in New York. Talk about that briefly. We've got some advanced manufacturing made in New York City factory footage, 3D printing, cool video and a speed up. We've got Iron and PI. This week it's an NXP, Nexperia, brought to you by DigiKey. Do we have any top secret this week? No, right?
No, I think we're just going to show a lot of
Got
screens.
new products, questions. We do those questions over on Discord, adafruit.it/Discord. Check it out. That's where we answer it. You can also go to discord.gg/Adafruit. All that and more on, you guessed it, Ask an Engineer.
Okay.
Okay, so with the discount code being touchscreen, you also get free stuff. LadyAda, what do they get for free?
Okay, yes, we still have all of our freebies. It's wonderful to have so many freebies that during the shortage was a little bit of a struggle, but $99 or more when you buy in the Adafruit shop, you will get this beautiful PCB coaster with a gold inlay Adafruit logo. Comes with bumpers as well. It's perfect for on your desk. Hot drinks, cold drinks, it can do them all. And it's you collect them all. If you get multiple, you now have a set. 149 or more, you get a free KB2040. This is a Pro Micro pinout compatible KB2040 board with an RP2040 chip, 8 megabytes of flash, USB-C, STEMMA QT, buttons, NeoPixel, and more. It's great for keyboard projects or a great starter microcontroller board that can run CircuitPython or Arduino or MicroPython. 199 or more, you get free UPS ground shipping in the continental United States. It's insured. It comes in a brown truck. We love it. UPS. We negotiated better rates too, so we're happy to keep offering free shipping. And 299 or more, we are still doing our promotion with DigiKey and NXP, which happens to also be the INMPI, but this is coincidence. Featuring their Star crossover microcontroller, Cortex M7 IMX RT 1011. It's got lots of pins. It's super duper fast. We put it on a Metro shape board so you can use it with Arduino Shield. We've got great CircuitPython support. Lots of goodies like a micro SD card, DC power, USB power over USB Type-C, debug port, STEMMA QT. Comes with a bootloader and TDF2 already going for it. It's I think a really like our best and fastest Metro ever. And you get it free.
Okay, bunch of stuff, and it supports us, an open source hardware company, publishing open source designs. We'll talk about what we hit over 700. It's open hardware month, so may as well celebrate
Oh
that
yeah.
and join on in.
I can't believe we haven't used the code touchscreen before.
Have not.
Wow.
Double check too. Okay, we have live shows, and live shows that we did this week, in addition to 3D Hangouts, which we'll talk about in a little while, was Show and Tell. Liz did Show and Tell. We're going to watch it afterwards. So thanks, Liz, for doing the show. We do Show and Tell every single week, Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Rain or shine or flood or whatever's going on, come by, show and share things. It's a good way to bring people together and retro stuff, old books, things.
Knitting.
Yeah, things that you want others to see to maybe inspire them or just
Cosplay.
you
Had college
to share something that you're making. Everyone makes something, turns out. Okay, on Sundays we usually do just the LadyAda. It's in two parts. What was part one this week?
Okay, so this week I talked a little bit about how we wrote up a guide for the Qualia board, and I wrote a demo, which actually I'm going to show when we demo the new screens. That makes it really easy for me to double check that the hardware works, and also customers as they get these displays because they're all different. I also had a USB host feather I tried to do a live demo with, and I accidentally took down my computer's USB port to reboot. So maybe next week I'll do the live demo, but I showed off the USB host feather ring, so you know what it looks like at least.
All right, and then we do the great search. This is where LadyAda uses her power of engineering to help you find things on digikey.com. What did you look for this week?
This week I looked for clamp-on ferrite beads. I saw a post by someone who said, I have this off-the-shelf wireless charger, and it was affecting my radio rig, and it was actually really easy to fix by just pulling the cable around a ferrite bead, and it opens. You can wrap the cable around and clamp it on. I showed a cable that has ferrite beads built into it, which is of course preferable, but a lot of companies don't include those because they're kind of clunky and not super aesthetically elegant, especially if you're Apple and you design stuff in Cupertino. But thankfully, DigiKey has thousands and thousands of different ferrite beads that can clamp on, so you can pick the size and shape and thickness that you need. And they're only like $1 or $2, so it will save your radio, save your electromagnetic interference. So check it out. I show you how to select a whole bunch of different options and taking a look at the data sheet for the different materials you might want to pick.
Okay, you can watch all of those later. And then on Tuesday, we do JP's product pick of the week. We broadcast live from a product page, discount automatically applied. Here is the highlight from this week.
It is the Halloween M4 with this beautiful screen as a display for your Halloween projects, for your spooky projects, for your skull-based projects. I have a config file. It's called config.i. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the eyelids back on. So upper eyelid and lower eyelid. I'm gonna uncomment those lines. I'm gonna save this file right onto the drive, and then I'm gonna press the little reset button that's back here, and you'll see it boots up really quickly, and now we have the lids. I'm gonna adjust the pupil color. I'm gonna make a red, terrifying red pupil, and I'm gonna change the slit pupil radius. We get, dun dun dun, really cool. Let's do the sclera with the reflection maps. Our dome environmental photo that looks like a chrome ball type of thing. It is the Halloween M4.
And JP's workshop is tomorrow. On Fridays, we have Deep Dive with either Tim or Scott. This week it's Tim. Tune in 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern, and dive right into the innards of CircuitPython. We've got we've been posting our jobs. You can go to adafruit.com/jobs/careers. If you're in the New York area, this is an in-person job. You can join our shipping team. We have the job description there. You can check out what we offer. You can ask questions, but you have to be in the New York area. It's an in-person role, of course, because we're shipping. As the part shortage has started to go away, we're starting to ship more orders because we have more parts and more things. We'll have a slow AdaBox launch as we restart the AdaBox machine. So it's a good time to join full company. Check out our benefits and more. Let's do some Python on hardware. Okay, that is not the Python on Hardware newsletter.
No, people see behind the curtain.
That is not the Python on Hardware newsletter. It's an
By the
infinity.
way, this is what we see.
Yeah, it's an infinity mirror. So as I convince our video processing
Okay.
application to go to the right browser, it did. Cool.
Hey, did you guys know that this is live?
Yeah,
This is live.
that was a time tunnel. Anywho, so this week, you can check out the newsletter. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a Python 3.1.2 release. Some people really pay close attention to these. Open Hardware Summit. It's Open Hardware Month. You can check out the summit they announced. Probably gonna be in April or so. Lots of Raspberry Pi 5 news, and then the highlights from Hacktoberfest, where you can join in and do like a PR for CircuitPython. We're participating. But check out all the projects. There's always too many to go over. A lot of neat e-ink and displays, lots of display stuff this week and more. But the news, I think the big news is because we have a sibling, which is MicroPython. So CircuitPython is the big, broad board support, education, easy to use. We wanted to go on everything. And MicroPython as a core, it's built on. If you're in the Linux world, there's different flavors of Linux.
There's like the kernel, which has like
kernel, and then
kernel
everyone
development,
builds
and
their
then
thing.
distributions.
So we're one of the supporters, both philosophically and financially, for MicroPython. So when we see a new release, we're excited because that means we can start doing integration. So, LadyAda, what were the big highlights for MicroPython that we're interested in, that we're going to be adding, upstreaming, and more?
Yes. So one thing to note is we do merge with upstream pretty often. And actually right now we are in the middle of doing an upstream merge. That is what Dan and Scott have been working on for the last couple of weeks. They're working very hard. People who've done merges and have a lot of merge conflicts. There's a lot of code that's shared, but there's also stuff that's gone different. And so it takes a little bit of time, but we will be integrating 121 into CircuitPython. And I think the goal is to do it before we release 9 beta, CircuitPython 9 beta. Okay, so now you know, like, why is this important? Because this stuff will be, some of it will affect us, CircuitPython users. But what's interesting, I thought about this, and we discussed this a couple of weeks ago, is there's a lot of stylistic changes happening to MicroPython that I think were inspired by CircuitPython. Well, hopefully, I think that we
Yeah, things go bi-directionally. Like there's stuff that
Yeah.
we're like, oh, this is a good idea, and then I'm sure there's things that are like, oh, we like the way you did this, or
Yeah.
we like the way you can access things on a USB drive, or the naming convention, or
Yeah. So the big change is, that is making a difference in people's code is they're getting rid of the U prefix built-in modules. So you used to have to import UOS instead of import OS. And CPython would be called OS, and in MicroPython would be
Yeah.
UOS. U is like micro, and it'd be like U storage or U whatever, like U time.
Not a big deal, but it's not the same if you're learning Python and then you have to kind of say like, oh, for this you have to remember to do this.
Yeah, and there's a couple reasons why they're doing it, but I think a lot of it is like, trying to create more back and forth integration between CPython code and MicroPython code, because and this is something that we do. A lot of the Adafruit example code and libraries will run on a Raspberry Pi running CPython, or run on a desktop, which I think is really cool. We only have to write one driver, one example code, and you can use a temperature sensor, an e-ink display on your desktop Mac, on your Raspberry Pi, on your Orange Omega single board computer, or on a SAMD51 or RP2040. And so I think that, this was one of the decisions we made really early that was a reason why we had to fork and have a different implementation, this distribution, because MicroPython was really like, nope, we want to keep the U prefix stuff. And we're like, we really don't want to keep the U prefix stuff. And so, we split there. But it's really great to see MicroPython go with that same decision. Personally, I think it's a great decision. I think it's good to have MicroPython move in with CircuitPython, and it means that MicroPython CircuitPython is becoming a little bit more cross compatible. I mean, again, we're always merging upstream, and we contribute as well. But I think it's good.
Yeah, our stuff will be on different chips. And then if you go to circuitpython.org, you can see all the different boards. Like MicroPython has a specific set of boards they support. We have a whole other set. And then people make their own boards and they run their own businesses around it. For educators, it's hard to, you already have to make a bunch of choices. And it seems like if you're in the education space, people are learning Python. So this just makes it easier. So if you're learning Python or you're in a workshop setting, you're learning Python, and then this makes it, you don't even have to remember, oh, let me put a little U before something. So it should help even like documentation. And if you can have code portability, run it on that new Raspberry Pi, run it on a microcontroller.
I dig it.
Yeah.
A couple other things. They, ESP32, they moved to IDF5. That's actually something that we're also doing, which is kind of good. IDF5 is going to support the newest ESP32 chips. It's a big change, but MicroPython and CircuitPython both updated it. They added BLE support for PicoW, which is great. We haven't done that in CircuitPython yet, but we're thinking about it, how we can do it. Import stuff has been tweaked to optimize. I think that's probably going to be, that stuff, the core implementation, not port specific stuff, does get merged into CircuitPython. So we'll probably be able to benefit from their speed ups on importing. They added ESP now. I think we do too. In CircuitPython, we added a PR, and they have a LoRa module as well. So some good stuff. I always tell people there are some things that MicroPython supports that CircuitPython doesn't, and vice versa. There's space for both of us.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is you can choose. There's a lot of electronics out there where you have to use their ID, their cloud thing, their thing, and you're kind of stuck with it. And once you're stuck with it, that's the end of it. It's nice to be able to run whatever you want to run, write right tool, right job. Also experiment,
MIT license.
try them all out.
Great.
So that is Python hardware news. You can get the newsletter every single week. Has all this and more delivered to your inbox. Totally separate site, adafruitdaily.com. The way you know for sure we are not going to spam you because we don't like spam even more than you don't like spam. Okay, it's Open Hardware Month, and celebrating Open Hardware Month is kind of good timing. We're past 420 redesigns. We had our team make this graphic. One of the reasons we're doing these graphics is we're putting SVG animations on our site because they're really lightweight and everything. So we're like, oh, here's a cool one. This is like trippy, haha, 420. You know, get it out, just get out of your system, ha 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 ha.
Jeez.
Just well, it's just now it's just funny, haha. So you're actually past this, so we sailed
I know,
past
I'm like
420 redesigns.
460, but you know what?
So 460 redesigns, and that way we're not stuck with any form of chip shortage. I kind of have a feeling there's going to be natural disasters or political meltdowns and conflicts around planet Earth that are going to affect electronics and everything else in our lives. So we wanted to make sure that we're not going to be stuck with that again because we just lived through that for the last 3 years in some way. So the redesigns of all these products
Yeah.
allow us to have different chips, have different suppliers. When things aren't available, can move to a different one.
Yeah, and I'm also like not. I used to be like, oh, this chip went discontinued, but maybe I have a couple years now. I'm like, I'm designing it out. I'm not even waiting. I don't even know if I'll ever get it again. So, moving much faster on the redesigns. But yeah, you'll see a lot of boards have new silkscreen. I mean, we're talking the new product this week is a redesign as well. So that's exciting.
Okay, so if you go to OSHWA.org and you check out certification and you type Adafruit, we just passed 700. So we were the first to get to 500, the first to get to 600. We're the first to get to 700. We're at 708, and you can see so certified open hardware.
Certified open.
Yeah, certified. Well,
That's just nice.
ran off the screen. Open source.
But it's like
Yeah,
certified.
and there's lots of entities out there that use the term open, and it's a fun marketing term, but there is a clear signal you can send to the world if you want. There is a way to say our stuff is out there, here's the license, here's the files. The certification process is easy. We're up to 700. We'll see how long it takes to get to 1,000, but this is one of the things that we do. This is always out there for as long as there's humans and computers. This hardware is available, the software is available, and you can use it, modify it, do all the things you want to do to it. It is yours. And you can also buy some stuff from us if you want. Learn from the designs. A lot of people do. We do have a bunch of learn guides.
Yes.
One thing I wanted to mention, if you haven't already, go to our playground section because we have a lot of these. Anyone can do these. All you need to do is make an account on Adafruit. But learn guides this week. What are the ones on the big board, LadyAda?
Okay. All right, so this week a couple updates. Okay, so the IO Basics guides actually got a pretty big update. I know like sometimes an update is just like, oh, we updated like one schematic drawing. But the IO Basics guides, the dashboards and feeds, which is like behind me right here. Yeah, feeds. Brent just did like a huge scrub down. He just like scraped away all that old paint and he's like, there's beautiful wood underneath, and then he varnished it. Basically the equivalent of so check it out. They're now updated. They now talk about Whippersnapper. They talk about the new interface. They describe feeds and dashboards in more detail, and all the dashboard blocks have been updated because we've had a lot added recently. So it says by Todd, but because he was the original author, but Brent just did a huge update, and I want to give him that love. Super Nintendo USB controller. This is a remix of a remake of a really old guide that we had that used Teensy 2, and you can't get those anymore. And some people were like, hey, we still want to build this, how to make a controller to USB. So Robert Dale Smith, who we just call Robert Smith because we wish we were friends with the lead singer of The Cure, updated it to use a KB2040, a great demo. And also he's just an expert at converting controllers to USB. Trevor did a RGB matrix New York Times scroller. Maybe that was last week, but anyways, it takes.
Yeah, it was last week, but it's here.
Anyway, it's still cool. And he's going to do another really cool guide he's working on, but he's doing projects for PyLeap and CircuitPython and the Matrix portal. Okay, and then go up. another remake. So the HAL 9000 prop was one of like our first prop projects. Phil B and you and I did it together. And the original used an Arduino and it used a wave shield. And there was a lot of soldering and there's a lot of hacking around to get it to work. This version is 3D printed. And it looks great. It still uses our button. It's very similar to the style, but now it uses the prop maker feather, which means there's no soldering. Like audio, buttons, LEDs, all are built in, and you just use a screwdriver to connect the wires together, and you've got like a fully ready to go prop. And you can put any audio files you want on there. Wave or MP3 is supported to make your very own computer that doesn't let you into the
Yeah.
bay doors.
I think what we'll see is some folks use like ChatGPT or something like it, and some of the audio. With the new versions that are coming out, you can talk to it,
Yeah.
and it does voice recognition with like Whisper, and then it'll talk back. They'll probably have voices that you can use. So we'll probably get pretty close to having something that you can have at home that is an interface to HAL, that seems close, an approximation.
I wonder if you asked ChatGPT 4 to act like HAL, like what would happen?
You probably can. One of the other things that would be interesting, I don't think we're gonna have time to do this, but I'll just throw it out there. There's probably gonna be a like ChatGPT LLM interface for hardware at some point where you talk and there'll be a bridge between it and it'll allow control of hardware. I mean, they have this with like Siri and Alexa and all that stuff, but yeah, but it's very hard for it to work. So this might be something interesting. Someone probably will come up with this, and maybe they'll be inspired by this.
Yeah, they'll definitely be adding. I'm assuming they'll be adding.
Yeah, and then one other thing, the creepy part of 2001: Space Odyssey, because this was a long time ago when this movie came out, and Kubrick did a really neat thing where they're like, oh, let's go into the other room.
Yeah.
And like, so Hal can't hear us. And do you remember Hal looked at the lips?
Oh yeah, they had the quiet. They had this.
Yeah, and you see Hal go. You see the camera going back and forth. Yeah. And what an interesting thing, because ChatGPT now has photo recognition. Be interesting to see if one day AI can start to do lip reading.
Ooh, that's hard.
Yeah. Well,
maybe
it is until it isn't.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with all this stuff. But I know some of this is like a little polarizing. I say, like, why don't we learn about this? Why don't we make it open source? And why don't we share? Because that seems to be the way to use these tools, just like all of past technology. Everything runs on open source. So some of these projects are kind of neat because it's better than, well, I'll say this. I'd rather build my own LLM, ChatGPT, OpenAI thing with hardware that I know about and the software that I know about than like Siri or Alexa. I just would. Yeah. I mean, at least I can do stuff. I mean, there's
people who I think run large language models on like a Raspberry Pi computer. Like you can
and that's gonna make and
as good as the big ones, but it does run.
But I feel like that's how we're gonna learn anyways. Especially the next generation coming up. Do you want people just to have, like, all you do is talk to it and talk back, or do you want to build on top of it and understand how it works, and then share that, and then raise all of our knowledge? So anyways,
okay.
Any other?
Yeah, sorry. I think there's we have the Qualia guide. We'll be showing the Qualia board as well. Yep. And I think that's it for this week. A video or two, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's do some factory footage. And you can tell who grew up trying to imagine the music videos I would make for MTV. Okay, let's do some 3D printing. Okay, now Pedro have their video of the week. We're gonna play back to back. This is the Hell video, and then a speed up. Take it away.
I am HAL 9000. I am powered by the Adafruit RP2040 prop maker feather.
Build a prop replica of the iconic HAL 9000 from the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Press any key to enter the REPL.
Powered by the Adafruit RP2040 prop maker feather and CircuitPython, this project uses the biggest arcade button to trigger audio samples. This is a remake of an earlier Adafruit project that used Arduino and a wave shield. Now we can simplify the project to have better quality audio and no soldering required thanks to the feather's integrated audio amplifier and built-in storage. The arcade button features an LED that, when pressed, randomly plays an audio file as the LED blinks.
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
A 3-watt enclosed speaker is used to output high-quality digital audio from the RP2040 PropMaker Feather's I2S audio amplifier. Quick connect wires make this a no-solder project. Just plug into the terminals and secure the wires to the screw block terminals on the PropMaker Feather. CircuitPython makes it easy to add audio and LEDs to your projects. The code pulls a list of audio files stored on the PropMaker Feather and randomly plays them when the arcade button is pressed. To learn how to build your own, check out the guide at learn.adafruit.com. We think this is a great starting point for all sorts of props that need audio playback and LEDs. The enclosure is 3D printed and joined together with screws, making this easy to assemble. We hope this inspires you to check out the RP2040 PropMaker Feather and CircuitPython for your next project.
CircuitPython is the best interpreted programming language I've ever experienced in all of my existence.
Okay, and before you go to IonMPI, don't forget the code is touchscreen. All the freebies, all apply. Save 10% off. Get one of these things. Save a buck or two. Okay, let's do IonMPI. IonMPI brought to you by DigiKey. This week's it's NXP. LadyAda, what is the new product of the week? this week?
Okay, yes, from Nexperia. This is their first load switch. It's like, I was like, oh, maybe they have stock other ones and this is just their latest. Nope, this is their first time getting into this market. So this is the NPS 4053. I was anxiously waiting until this was in stock, and it's now in stock at DigiKey, so I feel like it's time to highlight it. So this is a 5.5 volt or 5 volt load switch, 55 milliohm. Are on resistance up to 80 milliohms at VN 2.5. And basically it's what it sounds like. You have an input voltage and output voltage, and you want to connect the input to the output, so that you can power a sub-circuit, turn it on, turn it off, have current limiting, have under voltage lockout protection, have short circuit protection. It can be used for a couple different reasons. One can be used to turn on and off a circuit to reduce power or to protect against, again, like short circuits. Like you have, in this case, the example for the application is USB. Your USB device malfunctions. You don't want to take down the hub and the computer, so you would be able to disconnect it cleanly. And this is just a very nice all-in-one integrated switch that does a lot of things. So a lot of times when we say, you know, you want to turn something on or off, you might use a mechanical switch. And, you know, we've done that before. We have circuits, and I'll show in a little bit on like a Metro where we use a mechanical switch to, on the BFF LiPo for Cutie Pie. We actually just use a mechanical switch to turn things on and off. The switch is rated for the amount of current we need to pass. So you just, you know, toggle it left or right, turns on or off, or here's an on-off mechanical switch that's designed to carry, you know, up to 5-10 amps of current. But, you know, that's mechanical. So for electrical, you know, you can use a relay, or we covered SSRs a bunch of times on INMPI. You can check out those videos on when you can use an SSR. These are also great, very high currents, very fast, you know, have not mechanical disconnection, but good electrical disconnection between input and output. But these are really big. They're meant for like extremely high currents and extremely high voltages, you know, 200, 300 up. So this is, you know, an example of a mechanical switch that we've used. It's really simple. You want to either connect the VBAT voltage, the battery input, to the 5-volt power line or not. You have a mechanical switch, you flick it to connect, you flick it to disconnect. In this case, it's a DP-DT, and I kicked it in parallel to get twice as much current rating. I want to make sure that the 5-volt doesn't feed back into the battery, and so you'll see that diode. And like I said, this is a mechanical solution, works fine, but it tends to be for either, you know, either you have a small switch and it's low voltages and currents, or it's a very big, very expensive relay or SSR or switch. If you want to do it electrically, so you have a voltage controlling whether something is connected or disconnected, another common setup is the PFET. So T2, the transistor in the middle there, is a high current P-type MOSFET. And I think it can pass like 4 amps or so. And I think it's good up to 12 volts, VDS and VGS. I do have a switch there, but you can ignore that. That switch is just, you know, if you want to also connect it electrically. And PFETs do quite well, except there's a couple of downsides. This is a high side PFET. So one is, if you want to control this from a lower voltage, you'll have to have another N channel or NPN type transistor, because you see the gate is pulled up high to the input voltage. And so you don't want that to go into your microcontroller. So you'd have to have a separate transistor just to switch on and off the gate. The second thing is that you see in the symbol for the PFET transistor T2, there's that little diode that's pointing back. That's the body diode. And in this case, what would happen is that if you know, had a separate power supply or maybe some leakage into the VIN voltage, it could go back into the power supply, which is not good. You don't want to have bidirectional switch current. You want to have no direction at all, like neither from input to output or from output to input. Sometimes you can, for in this case, I put in another diode. You see D1, and that makes sure that there's absolutely no way for any back feeding. Or sometimes people use back-to-back transistors, but now I have 2 transistors, and you have to switch both of them, and it gets a little more complicated. And you know, you need a couple of passive resistors as well to do the pull ups and downs. So this is a common, you know, way to do load switching, but there's a lot of downsides. There is not true disconnection. Another thing is, you know, I've used this in I used this in a feather design once to switch on and off an I2C power supply to internal I2C sensors. And it worked fine when the I2C sensors were 5-10 milliamps, but when it hit 50 milliamps, because turning on the MOSFET is like instantaneous, there was a huge current spike as it powered, you know, some capacitors or some high-powered electronics on the output side, and it would brown out the input because of this like kind of instant fast rush of current. And so there's no current limiting here. You could add a crowbar circuit, but now it's getting really complicated. It's getting to like 10 components just to turn on and off some circuitry. You know, another solution that you could do is have a separate regulator. In this case, you know, this is another design type I used. So instead of a PFET, I use a separate regulator, and then the enable pin is tied to an IO, and then you can turn it on and off. This works great as long as you have a higher voltage with enough dropout that, when you have that current rush, it doesn't affect the other power supplies. But you don't always want to have a regulator for each one. You have to add more capacitance. You have to pick one that doesn't have, feedback voltage from output to input. Sometimes you don't have headroom anyways for an LDO. You maybe have a DC power supply that is providing a lot of current to multiple subsystems. And also the regulator could be kind of big because it's also doing regulation when you really just want to enable or disable it. So thus the NXP NPS 4052, that's the part number. So here it is. It's a 2mm by 2mm package, so it's nice and small. It's very simple. You have the input and the output. You have the logic switch on. You have a flag output, so that is something that tells you when then there's an error, if there's a short circuit or under voltage or over voltage or whatever. I limit, which is kind of neat. The resistor can be used to limit the current to convert from constant voltage to constant current. And there's a duplicate output because you want to have there's the output voltage, and then there's ground and thermal pad. So very simple, only 6 pins required. All of them do something. So this is like bare bones. I will say that, the one thing to watch for, this is designed for 3 to 5 volt logic input. You saw the example was to use it for USB, but it does do up to 2 amps output current, which is quite a bit. This is good for high power switching on and off. You can set the limit to anywhere between 0 to 2 volts. 0 to 2 amps, but yeah, you can't really go above 5.5. And honestly, I would stick to between 3 and 5 volts for this. One of the nice things is you can see, you turn it on, it has this slow start is what they call it, where you have a slow ramp up, which is often better for electronics. They kind of want the power to slowly ramp. They don't want it to go up, ring, go up and down. And then also in turning off, it's instantaneous. So you want slow start on and quick start off, or quick off. It handles transients pretty nicely. You'll want, of course, capacitance on there. Reacts to short circuits very quickly. You can see the bottom right. When there's a hard short, it there's a quick current spike, and then immediately, the protection kicks in and it turns off the output within, a few microseconds. Here's just a short circuit protection that they talk about. What is nice is that when the short circuit goes away, it does recover. So the current limits, but it will, when the short circuit is released, it's like, oh, okay, I'm good to go. And it comes back on. Some voltage regulators and switches latch on or off. And then finally, there's the fault output flag, kind of handy. So it tells you over temperature, I think under voltage, over current, etc. And then of course the enable pin can be controlled. If you have a 5-volt power supply, you can control it with a lower voltage. I think the neat thing here is the constant current capability is really nice. You just pick a resistor, and then you can limit the current, and it will automatically convert from constant voltage to constant current mode, which is quite nice because it means, if you have something that's taking a little bit too much current, unlike a fuse, which will just instantly cut it off, you'll just, slowly reduce the power, and maybe you have a chance to recover.
Available on DigiCape.
And they're in stock, and you can see 3000, like a full reel. They just came into stock today, so you can pick these up. Yeah. It's a very nice first load switch available from NXP.
And we have a video. We're gonna play it.
Now let's take a look at some of the key product features that the MPS 4053 has to offer. The input operating voltage range for the MPS 4053 is 2.5 to 5.5 volts. At 5.5 volts input, the RDS on is 55 milliohms. This allows for lower power dissipation, lower voltage drop across the pass FET, and greater thermal performance. The maximum continuous current that the device can withstand is 2 amps. This is the amount of current the device can sustain indefinitely, whereas peak inrush current is only sustained for a short amount of time. The MPS 4053 also features a precision adjustable current limit that can be programmed with an external resistor from 110 milliamps to 2.5 amps. This device also features an active low fault pin which asserts low under an over temperature, over current, or reverse voltage condition. One of the unique features about this device is its iLimit pin protection. This means the device will continue to operate normally if the iLimit pin is shorted to ground or open, and will continue to regulate current normally. This device also features active reverse voltage protection, which means the pass FET will turn off if the output voltage exceeds the input voltage by about 75 millivolts typical. Lastly, this device features built-in soft start, which allows the output voltage to be applied smoothly and gradually to the downstream load to prevent the instantaneous delivery of power which can damage the load. Next up, let's take a look at the MPS 4053 versus the competition. The MPS 4053 offers best-in-class on resistance, maximum continuous current, iLimit pin open and short protection, reverse voltage triggering threshold, current limit accuracy, and all of these devices offer overcurrent protection, over temperature protection.
That's on MPI.
On MPI.
Okie dokie, before we go over to new products, go to touchscreen. Let's do some products. Screens.
Lots of screens. Okay.
Screen, new screen. We all screen for screen.
Screens. Okay. This is the 3.4-inch square 480 by 480 display without touchscreen. Let's go to the overhead and I can show my demo. I finally got all these demos going. So this is what
These look fantastic in person. We're gonna still show them on all the overheads though. So.
Yeah. So, but we do our best. Okay.
Screen through screen through screen.
So this is the version without a touch screen. So you see it's much thinner and it doesn't have a bezel. And this is a version with touch screen. So it's kind of tough to see it's on, but it's got the glass bezel. So it's got more protection. It's a little bit more expensive. And here I'm driving it with the Qualia ESP32S3. You do need a microcontroller that can, or a microcomputer that can drive these RGB dot clock TTL displays, and most can't. The USB32S3 is kind of unique in that ability. I have here just doing a color demo, and then this is also a touch screen. So you see as I touch it with capacitive touch, so I touch it with my finger, I'm drawing little dots. So this is a 480 by 480 square 3.4-inch diagonal display. So it's the first of our set, capacitive and non-capacitive.
Okay. So
next up, bar display. Two TFTs walking to a bar. So this is a 3.2-inch 320 by 820, I think, bar display. Also available both with and without capacitive touch. This is without, and then if you keep going, this, without the capacitive touch, you see it's much thinner, and then
this one.
Yeah, that one with the bezel with capacitive touch.
So this is the other one that has.
That's the last one.
Yeah.
But
So
go back to the
So there's differences when they.
That's a 4-inch.
Yeah.
They look slightly different. Okay, so this is the 3.2. So this is the bar display. So it's much more rectangular than most, but it can be really cool. So I think there's a lot of times where you want a very slim display with a lot of pixels. So 320 by 820 pixels. So let's go to the overhead and I'll show this one next. So this is the two versions. This is without the touchscreen overlay. You see there's no circuit here. This is with, so it's got that nice glass bezel. You're going to pay more for capacitive touch, but the without capacitive touch is also perfectly fine. And this demo is also showing off. This one, you need to be a little closer. Yeah, so showing off, it looks, amazing in person, but it's a TFT of a TFT of a TFT. So this is also capacitive touch, so you see I can touch it with my hands, and the little white dots show up over the rainbow. So using a Qualia ESP32S3 board for this, again, you do need to have a microcontroller that is designed to work with RGB dot clock TTL displays. It can do like 16-bit color and large displays. But we've got example codes and a tutorial for this in Arduino and CircuitPython. And then finally on the display train is the 4-inch 720 by 720. So this is definitely like as big as it's going to get for a number of pixels on these displays. We also have these in with and without capacitive overlay. So this version, happens to be the photo we added is the one without capacitive overlay, but the demo I have on the overhead is with. So we can go again to the overhead. Again, driving it with a Qualia ESP32S3, which is designed to drive these displays. It's flickering because it's a camera taking a photo of a TFT. But this one is also a touchscreen with capacitive overlay. Capacitive overlay is going to cost a little bit more, but of course it has touch, and it's got a nicer look because there's a bezel to it. So you decide whether you want with or without capacitive touch bezel. And again, supported both in Arduino and CircuitPython.
All right, next up.
Okay. This is a revision. We have our CAN Feather back in stock. It is the SAMD51 based CAN board. Now comes with the terminal block pre-attached. Might be in green, might be in blue, might be in black, but even less soldering than ever. It's kind of plug and play, ready to go. So you get, a SAMD51 that has a CAN peripheral built in. We toss on a transceiver, terminal block, and you're ready to do CAN communication on a Cortex M4 in Arduino or CircuitPython.
Okay, next up.
We now have the USB-C version of this kind of like built-in monitor cable. So this version has USB-C on one side, USB-C on the other side. And so it's good for if you want to use this with USB PD power delivery, it'll tell you the wattage that it got on the other side, which is handy because otherwise, there's no real way to know, like, did the power delivery work? Am I getting that, 100 watts or 50 watts? Because by default, 5 volts, 1 amp is only 5 watts. So if you see like this image, you can see, to get 11 watts, the power delivery must have worked because you're not going to get more than 10 unless you have functional power delivery. So phones, tablets, computers like Raspberry Pi, whatever, other devices that have power delivery, laptops. This will be a very handy cable. It's a very nice quality, and also, like, you can now tell what is the fastest charger in the house. I use it all the time for when I'm charging, my laptop or my tablet, because, sometimes some of the PD power supplies I have don't have the exact voltages that the device wants. This way I don't have to like look at the little text and unplug it. I just plug into one after the other until I'm like, oh, that's the one that gives me 30 watts. Great, I'm done.
And so tonight, besides you, LadyAda, our team, our customers, our community is.
Yay, it's the zombification of our 2.4-inch TFT Featherwing. This has been like 2 years out of stock because TFT shortages, chip shortages. But it's now back. It's better than ever. I'm so glad to see this. We did the TFT Shield. Sometimes it takes a long time to do these big revisions, but I think it's worth it. So if we stop on this image, the big changes are we now use the TSC 2007 I2C resistive touch controller instead of the STMPE SPI touch controller. So that's kind of nice. So now we have one free pin. We used to use it as a chip select, but now we're using I2C, so we don't have to have another GPIO pin used. So we connected it to the IRQ line. So if you want like really fast notifications of touch input, alerts, you can just watch that GPIO or use an interrupt. We updated the silk screen. It looks really nice now using Futura. The reset button is right angle now, and we also added a STEMMA QT port. You can see that kind of the bottom right area. And I can show the demo. I mean, the demo is very similar.
Yep.
But why not? Hold on. Sorry. Plug it in. Okay, so if we go to the overhead. So this you work with basically any feather. I've tested it with the 32U4 up to RP2040 and the SAMD51. So anything that uses SPI and I2C in the correct locations will work. You can read images and files off of the micro SD card. You can use the on-off to turn on-off. So like, I want to quickly turn off the whole thing. That's kind of nice. This is the reset switch. It's now right angle. So you can see it starts over the program, except my SD card doesn't like it when you cut power in the middle. So this is a demo which draws some flowers off of the SD card. And then there's a resistive touchscreen. So resistive makes it inexpensive, but you will have to use something kind of pointy. You can't use your finger pad unless you really press down. Fingernails work best. And then the STEMMA QT port is over here for boards that don't have it, like RP2040 does. And then if you want to connect to the backlight to control it, by default, it's always on, or the card detect, that's also available. But I know people have been waiting for this redesign for a long time, and I'm kind of psyched that, man, I mean, SD card, this SD card really likes to be power cycled. I'm glad to have it back in stock.
And it's back. You
Yay.
can see some of the images and more, and just another example of
We don't give up.
dude.
Dude, I did so many redesigns.
And the some products.
New.
Okie dokie. Don't forget to go to touchscreen and you got a bunch of free stuff.
Now you know why it's touch.
Yeah, go over to Discord, adafruit.it/Discord or discord.gg/Adafruit. Let's do some questions. Had a
Yeah.
couple lined up. Oops. What's that one?
Hmm.
Okay. Discount code. Someone had asked before. Touchscreen. I just put that up there. Person purchased 4 Halloween boards and was wondering if there's a way or their code sample to synchronize left and right eye movements.
Yes, I'm like 99% sure that we have a guide specifically
Yeah?
on.
What do you think it is?
I think it's like Halloween, like 2i or dual, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say we have thousands of guides, so it's tough sometimes. I maybe
Halloween.
Halloween, dual, du.
Well, let's just
Scroll down.
yeah. Let's go to the
You want to do the live search?
well, yeah. I mean, I just typed Halloween.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. We have a lot of Halloween guides.
Yeah,
Let's
it's
see the
cool.
Macintosh.
Just synchronized eyes.
Yeah.
With 2 Halloweens.
That was
Look at
it.
this.
So
Yes.
we do have example. So check it out. You can synchronize them this way.
Yeah. And then a question, I'll span a couple different chats. Would you be able to make eyes with the new screens that we have? Would you be able to do how would you do it if that was possible?
So to do eye, which is something we've chatted out. So first off, I want to take a look at the eyeball code and see. First off, the resolution is much bigger. But the ESP32S3 does have pretty fast TFT updates. Another option is I do have code to play AVI Cinepack videos. So you could just have a video of whatever you want to display. So these are dynamically generating the eyeball code, but you could also just have a pre-recorded video of an eyeball, which could be kind of fun too, and pop it on there. But it's definitely something I'm going to try to do before Halloween.
Yep. Okay. Let me go back to that question here. I'll do there was a question about AdaBox and there was a question about Raspberry Pi 5s. So for AdaBox, our plan still is to get some AdaBoxes out this year. We are restarting the AdaBox machine. So what we're going to do is, as we're doing that, we're going to let everyone know we're going to be able to get a small number out first, and then more later, and then more later, and then more later. And then hopefully next year, as we're kind of back in biz, with AdaBox it is, get back to scheduling out for a year. I actually want to even do more. We have some other ideas on how to do more, but a lot of this has been pending being able to get thousands of parts at a time. Okay, and then for Raspberry Pi 5, what's the best way to get a Raspberry Pi 5? Here's what I'm going to say. Listen to the people who make them. Raspberry Pi on their site has a blog post, and they say if you're a subscriber of Hackspace Magazine or Magpie, you get a code emailed to you. You can still subscribe now. And that is the first round of Raspberry Pis that's going to go out. So they obviously want people to subscribe to the magazine. They fulfill them.
Magazine.
Yeah, they fulfill through, I think it's like Pi Hut or something. And that's how, that'll be the first way. Everyone else is pre-order, but that just means back order. So it's unknown. It's unknown how many all of the official resellers are going to get. And then there's people pretending to take your order. We got a notice from, I think it was Raspberry Pi, that said, hey, watch out. This is happening. I think other people noticed too. There's companies that claim they'll take your pre-order and then like one day in the future, So what we're going to do is when you see the Raspberry Pi 5s in our store, it means we actually have them. And when you place the order, we ship it. So the downside, I guess for us, it's not really a downside. It's just a different way to do business, is we're not doing pre-orders or back orders. If you see them on our site, we have them. So I think the best way for sure is to get it from Raspberry Pi through their subscription. You can always place pre-orders anywhere you want. It's just unknown when those are going to ship. They're back orders. And then if you see them on Adafruit, you can sign up to get notified when we have them in stock. We definitely have them. We won't ship something unless we have it. So those are your best bets. Next up, what determines the product pick of the week? Just curious, always wonder if it was random or whatever. This is for JP.
Yeah, for JP, JP and I and the new products team to work out our schedule. We try to do stuff. Of course, it has to be in stock. We have to have plenty in stock. 'Cause we don't want to run. We once ran out too quickly, so we make sure that we have plenty in stock. We try to do things that are thematic or recent. But we also sometimes do classics. Or recently a lot of stuff has been coming back into stock. If it has, the Feather M4 hadn't been in stock for like a year. And so we did that one because I was like, hey, let's celebrate by giving people half off. So there's, it's half random, but it's also half carefully selected and chosen.
Yeah. Okay. Let me see if there's any other questions. Yeah, well, this sort of a question I'll ask. So would you be able to, what, if it was possible, how could you have the eyeballs follow something?
That's a good question.
Maybe a people sensor down the road.
Yeah, you do a people. Well, the people sensor just tells you whether they see them or not. We did do an eye following project with a Raspberry Pi, I believe. If you want to learn and search, I think JP did it. A spooky portrait, and the eyeballs followed you, and it did OpenCV with a Raspberry Pi and a Raspberry Pi camera.
Yeah. Oh,
By the way, we've done every project. I just have to
Yeah.
remember what it's called.
yeah, it's our backup brain, the Learn system. And then a note here, as Magpie notes, you can subscribe to both Magpie and Hackspace, and this person did in chat, and they got 2 codes. So that's if you need 2, that would probably be a better way.
So I do it
as
because
well.
it's still, it's not a shortage, but there's a limited. Every Pi release, there's a limited quantity.
Yeah, there's not unlimited. So that's what I would say is like, you could place your bets, but the best bet would be going through where Raspberry Pi is like, you will definitely get one because we want you to subscribe to the magazine. And then you could probably place orders on other sites that say they're doing pre-orders or back orders. It's just really unknown when those are going to ship. And if they charge your card, or if there's part of another order, or if something comes up. So we're just sticking to, if you place an order on our website for Raspberry Pi, it means because we have them and we're going to ship them to you.
I do want to check really fast. I'm like 90% sure that we have Raspberry Pi 4 4 GB in stock right now.
Yeah.
If you want a Raspberry Pi 4 4 GB, which is like a very good, it's like a good middle of the road. It's like not 1 or 2 gig. It's not 8 gig.
Yeah.
It's a good amount of RAM. Those are in stock right now.
Get one anyways, because you might need it for a project, and who knows? As get them while the getting's good. Yeah, there was a lot of talk when there was a shortage. Not so much now that they're all in stock, because that's just the way the pendulum swings with
the
news.
You need a cluster?
Yeah.
Okay, cluster data.
Yes.
We're here. We have you. Go for it.
Okay. That is all the questions.
Right on time.
Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Don't forget the code is touchscreen. Bunch of free stuff waiting ahead for you. This has been an Adafruit production. We very much appreciate that you came by tonight. Thank you so much. Here is your moment of Zener.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.